Hey y'all, this is Moni.
And this is Kat.
Hey Kat. And this is the Fake Ass Book Club. Wait, can we both say it or no?
Hey guys, it's your girl Moni.
And this is Kat.
What up, though?
Living this book life.
Good.
No book.
Good. I'm glad
Well,
to
yeah,
hear
this
it.
is a book life one. Yeah,
Still a book life. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, welcome back, you guys. We are excited to be here today.
Yeah, we are.
This is good because I really am excited to talk about this, friend, because it's Banned Book Week. Ta-da!
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 Ding, ding,
Ding,
ding.
ding, ding. So actually,
Yes.
technically, it ended. I want to say
Yesterday.
yesterday, but it doesn't matter because we're a fake ass book club and we still want to acknowledge this because come to find out, I feel like banned books is like those are our books of choice somehow. Like I didn't even recognize when we first started doing this podcast that it was going that way, but we're trending toward banned books are our shit. So it's right up our alley.
We love the taboo,
Yes, indeed,
the
man. So
forbidden,
yes, it's gonna
forbidden
be
knowledge.
fun. Forbidden knowledge. So, um, yeah, so that's basically what we're gonna be doing, you guys. We're gonna be talking about banned book week, the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why. And before we kind of jump into that, I think we should probably dedicate this episode, friend. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Are you ready? Okay.
Yes.
So, hands over your hearts, everyone. I just want to dedicate this episode to I would say all of the storytellers out there, all of the librarians, anybody working to keep stories in the forefront, especially stories of the underrepresented. And so, shout out to you guys for doing the good work. And also, first and foremost, before that, I want to dedicate this episode, obviously, to our listeners, you guys. I usually mention you guys first, but shout out to you. We appreciate your support, as always. What about you, friend?
Well, yes, and to your dedication. There we go. To your dedication, I actually this one's kind of sad a little bit, but I want to dedicate this one to Masha Amini. She's the young lady who was murdered by the morality police in Iran for not wearing her headscarf, and it's leading to massive riots in Iran right now, and it's been very interesting to watch. So I'm really saddened by her death, but what it sparked is really amazing, and I hope that they are able to overthrow this repressive regime. And also a side dedication because it's National Daughters Day.
Yay!
So we've been talking about our daughters a lot, just the two of us sharing daughter stories between us. So this one goes out to you girls. You run our worlds
all day, every day.
So dedication over.
All right, guys. Yeah, definitely, man. To all the women out here, man, it's hard. I'm glad you mentioned that, before we kind of get into banned books and stuff like that, because we literally just did an episode on sex and love around the world. And Christiane Amanpour, who is a fantastic journalist, she actually had the opportunity to interview, I want to say, Iran's president, and decided not to because they wanted her to wear a headscarf and she refused. And you can't go into somebody's world and impose your laws on them. And she is Iranian American because, like, I think her dad is from Iran, her mom is Canadian. So anyway, I just thought that was really interesting timing as far as what we were talking about here on the podcast. So shout out to her for standing her ground too, because she's not for nothing. She's been in situations and like that are high stakes like that, and interacting with people who's full on dictators and full on people who don't have the same ideals. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, talk about bravery, talk about, women just kind of being out here standing in their truth and whatnot.
And talk about like why, because I feel like these go hand in hand, right? Like these oppressive
I agree.
regimes, because they ban books, like they're banning fashion. So much of like when you study about how oppression works, it's restricting your access to knowledge about the world around you. So we talked about Malala last week because she got shot in the face for trying to go to school. And because that's the thing too, like in a lot of places, like it's very traditional for girls to stop going to school after they get their periods. And that's bad. I think that's bad.
It's like, yeah, you're gross now. Go have a baby or something.
Yeah, like so
It's
the
messed
fact
up.
that we have people here who are trying to keep books and knowledge out of the hands of, because these bans are really about, because when we say a book is banned, that just means like a school board or a library has decided that this book is too harmful to be here anymore. And
Mhm.
so they need to be taken off of the shelves because it could harm young minds. That's the logic behind it. But
Right.
it's never like, so, okay, do you want to take a look at some of these books?
I do, and I just wanted to give you guys a little bit before we do because I mean we have a couple of lists. So let's talk about Banned Book Week just a little bit. It was put in place basically like a campaign by the American Library Association, and it celebrates the freedom to read, kind of like what you were just talking about, and it just draws attention to the fact that there are so many books being challenged and banned. And basically a lot of the time, I mean, if you're talking about the demographic of people whose books are being banned. I mean, most of the content in these books are from LGBTQ community, like black people. Like I mean, cast. Like we have so many books that we've read, which we'll touch on that. But most of the time, it's what we would consider groups that are oppressed in society.
Yeah, it's a counter narrative to the American myth. Like
Yes,
our founding myth of about how like Jesus came down and handed us the Constitution and the purest, whitest hearts are able to implement it. And I mean, that's not what we're directly taught, but it
right.
is like kind of lightweight talk, like
It feels like
that's
that.
it's in the sauce. It's definitely in the sauce.
It definitely feels like that.
But these
So
books run counter to that, which are like, no, it was actually built on slavery and then a whole lot of other abuses.
you want to give people the opportunity or readers the opportunity to develop their own opinions and conclusions about reality and about the human condition. You know what I mean? And sharing these stories sometimes gives you a window into somebody else's story who you literally never come across in your life. So yeah, let's jump into some books though. Let's do that. So I found some lists, right? So there are let's see. Yeah, so I found a list that said, "Here are the top 10 most challenged books of all time." I was like, "Oh, okay, I wonder
Oh,
which books these
of
are."
all
So
time.
of all time. So why don't you do it? You say I think I did I send you the list? Or
Yeah.
do you want me to yeah, why
I'll
don't
I'll
you
go
yeah.
I'll take it. I'll take it from here, Moni.
Thank you, friend.
Okay, so 1984 by George Orwell. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. The Color Purple by Alice Walker. The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. Lord of the Flies by William Golding. Of Mice and of Men by John Steinbeck. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy?
What was it?
I feel like a lot of these books end up being literary classics. Am I
Yeah.
right? Because these
Yeah.
are books that you get
Well,
that
they're
you
of
can
all
read in
time.
school.
So they're
That's what I
gonna be
mean.
classics. But like, yeah, these were I'm trying to think of what's so like why they'd have a problem with these. Like to to
You
me,
don't know
let's see,
why?
what was the one that surprised me? The Great Gatsby, that surprised me.
Really?
Yeah. Like, why was
Hmm.
that so objectionable? I remember that not even being all that interesting. Like,
Hmm. You know what's interesting? The great replacement theory kinda, like, pops up in there. I don't know if you
um,
remember that about it, but it was like that was kinda like the fear, like, "Oh, like, that white people were gonna be overtaken because you're talking about these elite white folks and, they're,
Fake
like you're
news. You're already overtaken. Like there's way more brown people in the world than what we're calling white people. There, you've been
yo.
replaced. Ta-da! It's so
If
scary.
that was the point, that would have been you know what I'm saying? It's like, what do you think is really happening here?
Yeah, that's so bizarre.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just remember that being a thing. Like looking back, I'm like, yeah, they did kind of touch on that. But I don't know if that's why it got banned. I don't know if it's. I'm trying to think. What was the most salacious thing that happened?
I mean, there was like an extramarital affair, and then they hit that
That
woman
wasn't
with a
it.
car.
They don't care about that. You're supposed to cheat on your wife and beat these hoes up. So what? I mean, what the fuck is the point? I mean,
But uh,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah,
That one wasn't even that big of a deal. I kind of understand The Color Purple because that was black and gay, so it's like that's a twofer.
twas,
So I
twas.
mean, you get out of here.
Yeah, can't do
And
that.
I never read Catcher in the Rye. I couldn't
Me
get into
either.
it. The Tales of Huckleberry Finn.
I
I
remember
actually
that.
like Mark Twain. I've read some of his other stuff, but I've never read this one. I think is that the one with the character named Nigger Jim?
I believe so because it did. I want to say. I was gonna say that's the one that had the N word in it a lot, and that's all extra awkward when you're reading it
In
in
school.
class and you're like waiting to
Sure,
see your
sure.
count. It's like, am
And
I gonna be the
actually,
one that
I
has to
get
say it?
that. Not that you have to ban it, but it's like, well, maybe we don't read this a lot. My daughter still talks about that, about she hates that whenever they cover something black in class and everyone looks at her.
It's like, oh,
So
this
what
is
do you
from your
think? It's
yeah.
like it's like
Well,
I'm
and
here against
then
my will just like everyone else.
thank
Like I don't really want to
you.
be here, so can we just not make ugh.
I guess
It,
I'm trying to. My thing is that some of these books, I think you have to teach them in the proper context. I think if
but
you're
this
not gonna
isn't
have
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think if you're not gonna have the conversation about the story because even sometimes, like, even in The Great Gatsby, like, who I feel like the main character was an asshole, he wasn't very likable. You know what I'm saying? I just remember thinking, like, "This guy's a fucking douche,"
Yeah.
and it's like you don't really talk about that in an objective way because sometimes when you're reading a story, and you're reading it from the point of view of, you know, how you would see, like, a protagonist or something like that, I just remember being like, "Why should I like him? Like, why can't we have that conversation?"
It was real materialistic. My whole thing
Yeah.
is though, it's like these bans aren't like banning it from the curriculum. They're banning it from like just the school totally. So even if
Yeah.
you're not teaching these things, like just having not having them accessible, because to me that would have been really
Mhm.
messed up. Like I think I did read The Color Purple from the library at my school because actually I think I couldn't watch the movie because it was rated R. And so, but like it was really popular at the time, so I wanted to know what it was about. So I read the book, which
It's
had
worse.
way more in it than the movie.
Yeah.
But it was really good. And then it got me reading all of Alice Walker's other works. And then that's how I learned about female genital mutilation and just the
Oh my
plight of
gosh,
women
what's
around
the
the world. Like
what
it
is the
just
sound
spiraled
effect for that,
into that.
Brian?
I know there's ooh, I don't just screaming and ululating,
Brian, oh my
but
that is not funny.
it's not
Oh god.
but it I mean, that's what it is, though.
Oh.
Yay. So, yeah.
No. I know it.
Yay. So, yeah,
Oh my
I
god.
kinda get I don't know,
Well, what a list, man. I
what a
mean,
list. I've
I
read some, I haven't read others,
yeah.
but to me, it's self-defeating, especially too when I feel like the people who are doing these bans are kinda stuck in the past because like, you can just get any book now, like, just immediately, like, beamed into your phone. Like, it's not like, "Oh, no." And the fact that it was sort of that's what drew me to wanting to read The Color Purple. Like, so many things I had to read because I wasn't allowed to watch them.
You know what that made me think of, though? You saying, like, you can beam it to your phone. Yeah, the average well, I don't know. I guess the average person probably could, but I think that this ends up hurting underserved communities more because, like, if you don't have internet access, if you don't have a phone, and the only way you have access to this stuff is through libraries, it's like that makes it harder. It's just like abortion access. It's just like, you
Yeah.
know, any resources like being in a food desert, like when you're taking away something like PBS from a family who can't afford cable, that might be the only educational sort of TV because let's face it, like everybody's kids at some point are going to watch TV if there's one around. But it's like, if this is the only chance that they get to kind of like have something like geared toward them because there's no Nickelodeon or anything, at least it's something positive. So it's like, why are you there's value in this stuff. You know what I mean? And I think that it's I mean, you had kind of mentioned before, a lot of the time it's more like parents don't want to have these conversations. And so let's talk a little bit about that. So like, how do you handle material? Like, so some of the material that, gets banned is obviously about reproductive health. Like I said before, well, I don't think I said that, but LGBTQ issues that affect,
You're
not even
doing
just
it
Black
parts.
Americans. You're doing it parts. But Black Americans, Native American stories, like it's usually, these kinds of stories that are getting kind of blocked. How do you handle talking to your daughter about some of the stuff that they don't want? They're saying, "Oh, this stuff is damaging to your kids." Like, how do you approach it?
I'm glad you asked me that, Moni. I'm gonna say I've always just had very candid relationships with both of my children. So and actually maybe I might throw this up like on stories later. I had my daughter read one of the banned books, Mouse, one of the graphic novels, and then we talked about it and the themes, and we listened to NPR in the morning. She hears about what's going on in the world. Like I'm very real with her. Part of Let me just say this, if you don't want to talk about stuff, don't have children. Like a lot of it is explaining stuff. Like that's most of what parenting is explaining stuff. So if you don't like explaining things and you don't like how the world is, don't have kids. Like sheltering them from what's really going on doesn't protect them. It just makes them unprepared.
Yeah,
And
and
so to
confused.
me, and I would also say too, if you don't love yourself, don't have kids because that's just you. Like,
Oh,
you should really make sure you love yourself before you have kids because you won't be able to love your kids because they're just
well, and they're gonna
a
talk
whole
about
bunch of
you
you coming out. Oh, yes, you will get talked about a lot,
mercilessly.
and your performance, you're getting daily performance reviews.
Yes,
There's a lot of
physical
feedback.
critiques, physical
Lots
critique.
lots of feedback. So,
Mhm.
and a lot of I mean, and I'm being serious, but to seriously answer your question, like, just be real with them. Like, and it might be
Yeah.
hard because maybe you've never been real with yourself about some of these issues. So,
Maybe you've
that's the
never
thing.
thought in depth about them because you've never
Yeah.
read any books about them, which kind of takes us full circle because what's going to end up happening at some point, you're going to find yourself having to fucking read a book about some shit if it's something you don't have anything to contextualize. And my thought would be, it's okay. Like, it's okay. Like, I get it is super hard to put like material that's not folded very neatly and it's messy and it's like, "Oh, yeah, like, these are kind of, adult themes or whatever," but to me, like you're saying, I mean, it's real life, it's stuff that happens, and so what I would say is that you don't throw the whole thing at them right away. I think, there is a such thing as age appropriate or whatever, but at the same time, you know, you have to have these conversations. These kids can't be I don't want the first time that my child hears about sex or what it is or menstruating or is it menstruating? I don't know. But what
Menstruating,
menstruating. Um,
perioding.
period right. To be like out of context, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or what it means to be in
Or the
like not
fact too, like when they try to block this information in countries where they don't, or like even here, like in cults where they can just tell you it's like, oh yeah, your period's a curse. And because God's mad at you because of that Apple situation.
right.
So
He's
it's
still
just a
kind of
big
tight
old
about that. He never did get
yeah.
over
And
that.
it's kind of like, wow, actually, no, this is just a biological thing that happens to so that life is possible.
Right,
Like it's
exactly.
actually a gift and it's not a curse.
Yeah.
So you don't have to, but you have to learn these things because if you don't have anything else to reference or no one else telling you that, you're just like, yeah, I guess I'm just cursed. I'll just sit here out in the barn until I'm done menstruating into this straw. I know, but, like,
Ew,
that's
I always
how,
think
like,
about that,
the
like, what
like,
are we
girls die
doing?
like that because 'cause they're,
I
like, they are
know.
sent and isolated and stuff, and, like, this one girl, she tried to start a fire and died of smoke inhalation and stuff because she wasn't allowed to be in the house.
Right,
Like,
she was
it's
just
just
trying to stay warm.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, there's so many sad 'cause that's why people don't read.
that's the other part too. I know
Yeah,
we just it's like
it's so
just looking
sad.
sad. Oh my gosh. So I think maybe that's it. It's like you're trying to avoid something that's just uncomfortable. And it's like, I don't know if it's just because certain people deal with, I mean, I think especially, and I won't even say like this is a thing that I think is, oh, like Black I can only speak for myself. I just feel like there's just always so many times where I'm uncomfortable in life that I'm like, I'm just gonna have to be uncomfortable because I have to do this a lot, in my life. But then again, when I think about it, when we're at a point in our society where we're legislating people's comfort because they don't want to feel uncomfortable in school, and y'all know who I'm talking about,
The
the
mean
powers,
white
the
people,
mean ones,
not the
guys.
nice ones
Right. Not the
that
right,
listen
not
to us. You
exactly,
guys are
not you guys.
cool.
Well, because you wouldn't be here if you thought that
Yeah,
we were
that's
really on
right.
some bullshit anyway, you know what I mean? And so there's that. There are some wonderful things about America. There are some I mean, obviously, I can have this podcast and talk mad shit on here. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's coming after me. At the same time, technically, if it did get super popular, I mean, I'd have to people can comment on it, and they're free to do so, but it's one of those things where the more limited this information is, especially about like sexuality and the way our bodies work, and just about other people's reality, you're not doing yourself any favors, pretending like it doesn't exist.
Or
And
your
I think it
kids.
no, and I think it speaks a lot to our current state of things.
And
Be-
let's also remember a part of learning is discomfort.
it
Like
is.
part of learning anything is discomfort. Like it's really, really uncomfortable a lot of times in a multiple of different ways. For one, like having to grapple with your own ignorance about something. Like
I
let's
don't know
say
why that sounds funny.
well, grappling with your ignorance.
Yeah, man. I was just telling
Is-
you how it's hard for me sometimes. I was just telling Kat, man. I was like, what I've noticed about myself is I don't know. I became aware of it. This clearly isn't anything new, but I will feel you feel attacked sometimes. Like inside your mind. There's no actual attack happening, but sometimes like if I don't know something, I'm always like, which is weird because there's lots of stuff I don't know. You can tell just by listening to
Actually,
the
most of
show.
the things that are possible to know, you don't know.
Yeah. And so in some ways, I am okay with not knowing because it's like, yeah, there's a shitload of stuff I don't know. But it's specifically when I'm trying to learn something new or I'm doing something that I'm not usually doing, it does feel like, oh my gosh, and then like I don't want to ask for help because I'm gonna feel dumb or so it's weird. And I feel like a lot of it is just our internal dialogue with ourselves and stuff. And most of the time, I think the fear of it is worse than actually doing it.
Like, yeah, you just have to be uncomfortable sometimes. That's part of life. I was telling a funny story earlier about getting a Charlie horse
Yeah, you are.
and having to solve that problem creatively. I'll talk about it in more detail on the
Wow.
Patreon.
I
Look
know
forward to
that was a
that
good one.
dropping in October.
I
Look
know
for
that's
it.
right. Yeah, it's coming up, guys. It's
It's
gonna be fun.
yeah. And banning
I
books
get it.
doesn't do anything. It's just like when
No,
remember when Two Life Crew caught that case and had to go to the Supreme Court?
that
Like,
was
on freedom of speech stuff because they had a song called "Banned in the USA."
bad, bad the
It was,
USA.
but it ended up being a First Amendment issue, and they were right. Like, yes, they have the right to be as nasty as they wanna be, as it
Ah.
turns out.
Oh my
Um
gosh. Did you ever see that clip, of them on Phil Donahue from Forever Ago? If
Yes!
you guys have
That
never seen if you don't know who Phil Donahue is, like, in the '90s, like, the '90s was ripe
turned them
for
out. It
talk shows, and it was this older white man, and he was the host, and he had 2 Live Crew on, and they did a whole show, you guys. Oh my god.
It's so great. I'm so happy thinking about it right now.
It was
That was
hilarious.
that
Imma
was an
find the clip.
iconic moment. There were so many because there weren't as many entertainment moments. So, like, when stuff like that happened, it was such a bigger deal because there was no Instagram, there's no Twitter, there's no TikTok.
None of that
Like,
shit.
there was just regular programming, and that was irregular programming.
It
I
was
remember
like,
that chick was in there in that leather bikini and
they were
just
popping, locking,
man, Luke
dropping, twerking,
had
working.
the hose. So, yeah, but yes, but
Oh, I
what's so
found it.
crazy is
Yes.
them them trying to,
Oh,
people
sorry.
like
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
all of these conservative groups who had their panties in a bunch and was trying to like keep them banned and keep them from performing in their cities. Like you're just putting money in their pockets.
You're
Like that was
sensationalizing them at this
free
point.
promotion. Like whenever something
Mhm.
goes to the Supreme Court, it's gonna be in the news. Like I think it's not impossible, but it's less likely that me and you would be talking about Luke right now or even know who he is
Because
if
of
it
that.
hadn't been for that court case.
It's
Like he
true.
I'm not to say like he wouldn't have blown up. He obviously had a gimmick that was working for him. But like, a lot of times with regionals, that was Southern rap. That wasn't even hot at the time.
Yeah,
And
you're right. I mean,
it
unless like you right, definitely regional because
yeah, back in those times, like who is a Southern rapper before Luke and Two
don't
Live Crew?
girl, we couldn't even come up with Project Platinum last time.
Let's
Okay.
and it was actually 3-6 Mafia.
Whoops.
So even
See,
better.
I don't even know. I don't remember.
I
See, it
remember.
was. See, I just lumped them all in the same. And listen, no disrespect, guys.
No,
Y'all
let
are
us
classic. I
know.
don't know what's going on.
Let us know who was hot, like a hot Southern rapper. Like I feel like that was kind of the breakout, like hip hop artist from the South that I remember. Um,
And to be fair too, like any rappers that I knew at that time, I may or may not have known where they were from if it wasn't like super obvious. Like if they weren't
from how
always
they
saying it.
talk,
Well, no, like if from not like a lot of rappers, I feel like they reference where they're from all the time. Maybe I don't know.
they sounded country as hell. So that to me,
They
that was my
did.
tip that they were from the South.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, yeah,
But my whole thing is too like trying to ban stuff is dumb.
it's pretty
Like
silly.
just I mean, unless you just really want to make it popular, like for the most part, just leave it alone and talk to your kids a bit. Like you just have to talk to your stupid kids. Like, what do you want from us? Like you I think Louis
Ah,
CK said that because he was talking about how people get like all like get all their pennies in a bunch over talking to their kids about
mhm.
because they're like, well, we can't have gay people in there. What am I gonna say to my kids? And it's like, I don't care what you have to tell your shitty kids. It's like, do you just
Yeah,
you shouldn't have had them.
they gay people exist. Like there's the world
Ding
where
ding
there's
ding.
two, and that's it. And then keep it moving. But my thing
Yeah.
is again too, like definitely don't have your kids consuming stuff like like I'm not about to put any kind of sexual stuff in front of my kids probably or super violent stuff, hyper violent stuff in front of my kids at a certain age until I feel like I can kind of explain that to them. Like this isn't real, especially when it comes to like violence and stuff like that. To the point where when stuff comes on, I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to see that." They're like, "This is not real, mom." It's like, "I know, but I still don't want to see it though cuz I don't want to see that." But
Yeah. Well, like with my son, I wouldn't let him have Grand Theft Auto in the
yeah,
house.
come
Like,
on.
oh, did you see that they got hacked?
No.
Rockstar, it was kind of funny. They some teenager in the UK hacked them and released some of the new Grand Theft Auto game and was like threatening
What?
them and saying like he was going to release more unless they paid him, but they ended up catching him. And I think Trevor Noah was like, "Where did you get the idea that it was okay to commit crimes?" It's like
Was it on your game? No.
perhaps, but no, I mean, no, I mean, if you enjoy
Not
those games,
really.
fine, but not for children. Like I
That's
would
what I'm
tell my
saying, when
son
you're
too,
too
like
small, yeah.
you're not doing this in my house. I get it. You play that at your cousin's house, and that's what having bad cousins is for. But like
Not
here,
here.
I'm not paying $60 for you to kill hookers. You know, that's not
Right,
happening
fuck
here.
that. No, no. I feel you. And that's basically it. I mean, like, I don't think that my
But and
kid
I said
reading
that to him. Like those were my exact words. Like we had that discussion. Like I'm not like he knows what hookers are. Like we talk about
yeah.
all of these things are very real. I remember having a
Yeah.
talk with my dad. He was telling me about pimp culture. He had found like I think maybe like an E40 song or something in
Oh,
my
oh,
tape deck
hey,
and
hurry
he
up.
was like he got real mad and now even like with the context I kind of get it now too cuz like I'm pretty sure my grandfather ran a brothel and so like for
Yeah,
my dad he was just like real he was like I want you to listen to this stuff and I was like I
man.
mean it's so catchy but I get it now like you like you don't want your daughter taking in pimp culture.
Man, that's all we did back in the day too,
I
and I managed not to be a
know.
prostitute. Can you imagine
Just
that?
just
Just
I
barely, I
I mean,
guess.
just skirted under the and I mean, shout out to prostitutes though, like, if you gotta do what you gotta do to the sex
Yeah, no
workers.
shade to you, but I mean,
No
I just,
sex
that
but
wasn't I
but
ain't
not
built
to
for
the
that.
pimping. pro sex work, but I'm anti pimping, if
I
that
know
makes sense.
I do get real offended by that. It's like, man, this is some bullshit. It's like you're basically it feels very I mean, it's predatory for sure, but it's like you're assigning this I don't it's you're what is it? You're only relevant. It's like you're waiting for the crumbs to fall off the table, basically. Like you're not really. It's like, well, protection. It's like, but I wouldn't even need protection if there wasn't people like yourself. You know what I'm saying? Damn
Right. And
near.
I need protection from you.
Right. This is false protection. Is my point. It's like you're not really.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
trading one shitty situation for
so
another.
I'm
But
pro sex work, but anti human trafficking.
yeah, that's never good, man. Never,
Yeah,
never
like I
good.
don't want the human trafficking, but like, yeah, if you wanna and
Man, I
but
wonder
yeah, you
what
gotta
song
talk to
your
your
dad
kids.
heard though about on the E40.
I
Do you
wanna
remember?
say it was the remix to I Got 5 on it.
Man, that's wait, that
He
wasn't
said, "You got
oh,
5 on
was
the
he on
table, you folded."
oh,
Yeah, "You got
remix, okay,
5 on the
okay.
table, you can bring my stallion back to my stable." Hey, bruh, he had to give me a whole thing about, like, he was talking about, like he's talking about a woman and using
Not a
her and,
horse at
like
all, okay.
yeah, like, he was getting into the whole thing, and I was like, "I don't wanna talk about this with you," but
Uh-huh.
and I feel like my kids have felt the same way when I'm talking to them where they're just like, "Oh my god, stop talking." But it's like, "No,
I'm not, I
you're
won't.
gonna be prepared for this." I feel like the first time my son asked me about sex was when he was 5.
Oh,
And
yeah, my kid somewhere around there, somewhere around
yeah,
there.
and you just have to and I remember even talking about sex in 2nd grade. Like,
To
it
who?
was just kind of like a shake just another 2nd grader, and it was
Oh,
just, like, kind of just shaking I don't remember any of the people I went to 2nd grade with, and
okay.
so, yeah, we were just kinda, like, feeling each other out for, like, information, like, "What do you know?" And it's
Yeah,
like, "Well, this is
for
what I've
sure.
heard."
Yeah.
And we just yeah,
Well,
and
my
it
daughter's in
wasn't
2nd grade, she knows what sex is. I mean, more or
yeah.
less, you know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure she's never seen the act, I hope to God. Now that could
Fingers
be
crossed.
scarring, yeah, but
Sure.
but as far as knowing its function and, like, what it's for
Yeah.
and how it's used and stuff, like, that yeah, like, that's a thing, and so it's funny because having these candid conversations are hard, but it made me think about a conversation I had with my son recently, and we were talking about, um you know what? I forget what the actual we were reading a book together, and it was basically sort of proverbs from different cultures. And one of the proverbs prompted me to say something like, if you're, I was like, like when you're addicted to something and then you can't stop, I was like, like crack, like if you smoke crack, like you smoke crack one time, like like you're addicted. And then my son says to me, he was like, Mom, but didn't you smoke crack? I was like, crack?
Oh,
No.
no!
Like,
Whoa!
my voice went so high. My face looked I was so like, "Why would you say this?" My kids died laughing. They were like, I was like, "No, why would you think that I said I smoked crack? I never said that. I said I smoked a cigarette. I've smoked marijuana. I've never smoked crack. I have never smoked crack." He was like and then so then he's tripping off of me because I was super dramatic, but then also he was like, "So you can just smoke one crack?" Just one crack makes you addicted? Just one crack? So now I'm laughing because 'cause you're calling it one crack. And I'm like, "Yes, one little bitty crack." He's like, "One little measly, like, if it's a crumb of crack." So now I'm thinking, "Oh my god, is he gonna just smoke crack to just see, like, if the one crumb makes you." I was like, "Oh my god, is this going horribly wrong?" Like, should I
Right.
not
It's
mention
like,
crack? Like, I will you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like, I bet you he remembers having this conversation with me. I mean, he's in 5th grade now, my daughter's in 2nd. I'm he's they're gonna remember talking about crack with me, and so I rather the first time you really remember talking about crack, even though unfortunately you thought I smoked crack. I was like, "Why would you think I said that?" He was like, "I just thought." He said, "Doesn't Uncle Eric smoke crack?" I was like, "No! Nobody smokes crack, like, we don't smoke crack, like, that's not a thing." He was thinking cigarettes were crack for some reason.
oh, that's so
Yeah,
cute.
but this is why you talk to your fucking kids. He's
Yeah, because 'cause
thinking
I'm like, he's thinking like, "Wow,
your
a lot of
cousin's
people
dad
smoke
smokes crack.
in public." My
He's like,
goodness.
"Right, this is bad habits." I'm like, "Do you know what?" So then it's like, okay.
We need to watch New Jack City.
Yeah, man, we're gonna have to sit down and watch some Negro classics, okay?
I think that's the first time I saw crack.
You need to see Pookie because it's like that's what it is, okay?
That
It's
kept me
intense.
from ever getting close to it. Thank you, Chris Rock.
Yo,
That was
yo,
a very realistic,
compelling.
compelling portrayal
You
of
did that.
addiction and,
And where you
blowing
don't wanna
upness.
go. In all things considered, there's not one crackhead that I've been like, "You know what? That crackhead right there really," you know what I'm saying? Like, I wanna be like that one. So,
Yeah, I don't think
it's
I'm
that.
stronger than them, like,
I don't think I'm
somehow I'll
smart.
push through the crack. I
No
don't
one's pushing through crack, man. That's what I was trying to I needed to impart that upon my kids' consciousness
Yeah.
now. Like, do it now before you're like because, I mean,
I can't even stop eating carbs.
oh my god.
Like
Don't smoke crack, you guys. Make sure your kids just don't smoke crack. And I mean, there's so many other things now, but I think because, when we grew up, crack was like the thing. Like that was the
Yeah.
thing destroying families and stuff. So, but the funny thing now is that everything goes back to that. Like every time I can squeeze in the crack thing, it's always like, yeah, like crack. And they're like, Mom. It's like, yes. You're always talking about crack now. I'm like,
That'll
well,
never be your catchphrase
yeah.
for your sitcom. Mom. It's like, "That's crack." It's like,
Oh
like,
my god.
this show is
Oh,
terrible.
this show is
This
the worst, okay? But I
No,
mean, it's
yeah, you
important
gotta
to talk
talk
to
to
them,
the point
man.
you gotta talk to your kids, man.
You just have
Spice
to.
'em up. Hopefully, you're equipping them. Like, for me, my whole point is, like, I'm not gonna be here forever to take care of you, so you have to know how to navigate this world.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I think that's,
And you gotta
a
be able to move in it without being so wildly offended that people exist that don't live, think, and do things the way you do. Because for the most part, even if they are different, the things that are important, like breathing and wanting to be loved and wanting to connect and like all of that shit. Every human wants that. Like never forget that. Like I don't care what they say, I don't care what they're presenting. If they seem evil, I'm always telling my kids like if people seem like mean, I said, "You should feel sorry for them a lot of the time because
Mhm.
it doesn't start off like that. Nobody starts off
Nah.
like that." You know what I mean? Like, there's always usually something. There's always a story. There's always
Yep.
I'm always like, "What's the backstory here?" You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, who hurt you? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on? There's some trauma there. And I was like, "So especially when it's unprompted, you know what I'm saying, out of nowhere or whatever, so and I said, a lot of people don't have the luxury of being in a loving family or being exposed to different things, so they don't have a lot of I mean, it's just easy to go straight to hate a lot of the time and
Yeah.
anger. It's not a very highly evolved thing, it's a very animalistic and sort of, it's easy, so, I think getting into stories that are different from yours, it kind of illustrates that to you. You kind of see the through line. We talk about it all the time, like that, whether it's that hero's journey, that arc, whatever that is, that exists in every space. Um, and people just finding themselves or, like you said, learning how to love themselves. Like this is what we're all doing. In fact, I'd say it's probably the work of every human being here is just to love yourself as you are, without comparison and without perfection. I mean, like it's hard. It is hard to do. But I think it gets easier when you share
Or
your
yeah.
stories sometimes.
Or you just have to, I don't know. Or sometimes it's easy. I feel like
Yeah.
all of it is just to me, it
It's
it's
easy
just
at first.
blocking out the adverse messages I get that say not to do that. Because a
That
lot of
to me, that
times
is hard.
yeah. Oh, it's easier. I don't hear very well though, so it's a little easier for me.
Put cotton
So
balls in your ears, guys.
yeah.
Do that.
Or
But
just
yeah.
like earbuds, when you go out, and a lot of times you won't even hear a lot of the snide things that people say.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I do wanna so, like, we talked about just really quickly, the 10 top books of all time. And it's funny because I was looking at the list from 2020 and 2021, and it's a lot of the same books on there.
Yeah.
So from 2020, let's see, George by Alex Gino, that's number 1. Stamped, Racism, Anti-Racism in You Ibram X. Kendi and Jason Reynolds, which gotta read that one, man. I need that one's on the list. All American Boys by Jason Reynolds. Speak by Lori Anderson. The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. We read that one on the show. To Kill a Mockingbird of Mice and Men. The Bluest Eye, that's Toni Morrison. The Hate You Give. Angie Thomas, which we reviewed that on the show. But I mean, I think if you're thinking about these stories, if these are stories you're familiar with, I mean, the through line is these are a lot of LGBTQ books, I think, especially in this last year. And it's weird. So like in 2021, they banned 1597. So 1,597 total books last year.
Let's just say 1,600.
Isn't that stupid though?
That's
Well,
really
let's say
dumb.
1,600 is really
But once
dumb.
again, like these are people who hate books, so like, yeah, they're probably stupid.
Yeah, well, probably. So
Probably.
yeah, probably are, man. But yeah, I just think it's weird that there's an uptick now. Why do you think that is?
I don't know.
Really? No
I
hypothesis on
mean,
that?
on why people are getting more energized to ban books, because
Yeah.
it's such a bad strategy. I
I
don't
mean, I
know,
feel like
racism?
yeah, I
I
would
feel like
say
it's
that.
always the answer when I
Ding,
don't
ding,
I mean, that's
ding.
usually the answer to stuff, but I mean, there's always been racism, so I don't know why, like it's not like there's extra racism now, it's just, like, the
No.
same level. It's just maybe a little louder. It's not separate bathrooms racist, it's just
No.
now,
It's just
like
like buzzwords. I feel like the banned book thing
because
gives you
like,
a talking point politically. It makes it seem like
yeah,
what they've been
they're
able to
doing
do.
something.
So what I think is you've been able to sort of ban these books. It seems real political at this point. Like it has really nothing to do with it has white people don't want to be uncomfortable. They don't want their kids to be uncomfortable learning about stuff that doesn't put them as the heroes of the story. So like kind of shifting that narrative is uncomfortable. But they know that that energizes a certain group of folks, like to say, oh, they're trying to, woke culture will have you, talking about this, which by the way, I fucking hate that they have taken that word and made it into like
Their thing, and we should just call it sleep culture. So sleep culture wants you to stay,
woke culture was just kind of like,
My
yeah,
whole thing
like
is like, just like,
beware of white
yeah,
people and
yeah,
the bullshit that they be pulling,
the
like stealing a
shenanigans.
word that was your word to use to describe the fact that we're trying to stay aware that racism is still
Yeah, the
a
shenanigans
thing.
are
Yes,
very much running amok.
and so it feels like, oh, okay, so y'all took the word too. But anywho, it's like, but I think it just sort of energizes a certain group of people, and it's a good talking point. It's like, oh yeah, we're protecting our kids. Like we get to, and it's like it's not. I don't like you said. I don't think that it's more racist necessarily. It's just it's a way for them to make it seem like they're the actual victims here,
Oh,
and
well,
that's pretty
that's their
apparent.
jam.
It's pretty apparent because it's like you couldn't have read any of these books that you've banned,
No.
at
Just
all.
like that guy who stabbed Salman Rushdie. He's like, "I didn't read that book.
2 pages,
Just
and it was
wanted
like,
to do some
"I'm
stabbing."
offended."
I'm
Trust
mad.
me, it's easier to read the 2 pages and then just be like, "You know what? No, hated it." I just did that, so I can't even
Hated
all the way
it. Stab, stab,
I didn't
stab.
really like it that much.
Stab, stab, stab.
So, yeah, it gets real crazy, but it just feels like, it feels like a fake talking point. It gives people who don't wanna read books something to talk about, and it's like, "Oh, yeah, like, no, we can't have that. We gotta protect our kids," and it's like it's just weird because it's like y'all are not interested in protecting your kids when it comes to our healthcare system or keeping them safe in
Guns.
these fucking schools, right?
It's
Mass
like, less
shootings, like,
books, more guns.
yeah, just get
That'll
the
do
teachers'
it.
guns, just everyone has
Yeah,
guns, like,
guns, guns, guns.
it
And
feels
let's
crazy. Okay,
I'm bad. We
it's
need
real,
a
real dumb.
break.
Alright, y'all, so we're gonna take a quick break. We'll be
We need to pull
right.
over.
Okay,
Mm,
we're back from the break,
that's
friend.
I needed that, thank you.
We
We
covered a lot
tackled
of ground
ignorance. We
there.
did
We
it.
we did. We tend to do that. So what do you think is the number 1 banned book that we've talked about, like, on our
Oh, in
podcast
our
so far? Yeah,
podcast?
we've done a few.
Hmm.
Quite you
I
here?
think my favorite banned book that we've done is Mouse.
Ah, Art
And
Spiegelman.
also too because shout out to National Comic Book Day.
Pew, 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 pew.
And even though Mouse isn't a comic book, it's a graphic novel. It's kinda in the same family. There's
Well,
pictures, there's
wait,
words.
can you please I mean, and maybe you've done this before. What is the difference? Because to me, they're the same thing in my mind.
Graphic novels are longer, and they tend
Okay.
to be more structured. Like, they do have more words than regular comic books, which are more picture heavy.
Okay.
I could probably get a more, like, refined definition, but to me, that's my
That's good
experience
enough.
between the difference between graphic novels and comic books.
Girl, you're just talking to me. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
technically,
a
but that's
graphic
good
novel
enough
is
for
gonna
me.
be it's gonna be like a book, it's gonna be
Mm,
thick, whereas a
okay.
comic book is very, very thin,
Okay.
and,
Alright.
but yeah, I really, really enjoyed Mouse,
Okay.
and the fact
Huh.
too that people would wanna ban it is very strange to me because he's
Hmm.
literally just telling his family story, and he's not even being super graphic about it, he's using mice to make it easier, and
'Cause
just
he knew.
you know.
He
But
knew.
they tried to say it's because there was, like, there was nudity, but it was, like, drawn, so it's kinda like when you would see and first off, there's just nothing wrong with the human body, like, this whole idea of, like, "Oh, it's dirty," like, we just gotta get over that, like, if you have a problem with the parts, take it up with the manufacturer.
Wow. Yeah, feel the same with that. I think that it gets to be a little bit, overkill with that. Again, it just feels like we're focusing on the wrong shit. I mean,
It's
it might just be
performance.
me.
I take your
Yeah,
point
it's
before where it
all
can just be a political talking point about, like, "We're protecting the children." It's like, "Man, if you don't leave these kids alone, these kids are so much." Oh, because that was the thing too. Because I was revisiting our episode 21, X-Men Unlimited Volume 1, number 5, and, there was, I think my dedication for that episode was for the kids of that school who worked to get a bunch of schools unbanned from their
Yeah, I remember
library,
that, yes.
and that was, like, really, really inspiring because it's like, "Yeah, y'all, these kids are gonna be okay," and the fact that you want them like, everything to because I did start reading Octavia Butler's other book, The Parable of the Sower.
Oh, I know I wanted that I feel like is that on one of the lists?
It probably is.
Yeah.
I had it on hold, and it finally came through, and I was listening to it, I'm like, "This is so
Is
good,"
it?
and she
Okay,
was, like,
well
going through this thing, and she's like, "There's only one God, and its name is change," and it's like, "Well," it's
mm.
like, "Yeah, you gotta."
Yo, for real though, like, I mean, as far as just, like I mean, that's real, like, I feel that in a way. I mean, and I'm
Yeah,
not
because there's this deep
yeah,
desire to, like because once we have everything
fighting it.
figured out, we want it to stay the same because of, like, "Okay, I've reached the level of skill to
Mhm,
manage this, so everything stayed
mhm.
the same so I can manage everything," but, like, in real
Oh my
life, stuff keeps
gosh.
changing.
Oh my gosh, I'm glad you said this. I'm so
You're
glad you
welcome.
said this because so speaking of Octavia Butler, so the main character was in contact with
Lilith?
Lilith was in contact with the Oankali, which were an alien race, and, you
So
know,
you
they're
remembered Olin Collie, but you couldn't remember Lilith?
and
That's funny to
so
me.
because Oankali is more like it's not like Lilith is something common. So, like, I feel like
Yes,
my brain holds on to stuff that's more uncommon,
it's
if that
just
makes
funny to
sense.
me because I did not remember the alien race's
Really?
name.
Yeah, on
No,
Kali, yeah.
no.
So, but basically, you know, it was kind of forcing humanity to sort of evolve because that was the only way that they were gonna survive, and you asked me, would I copulate with aliens and take on the extra powers and shit like that that they would get in order to survive, and I said I would commit suicide because I didn't know if I could handle that, and I
You
think that, like, my response to that is sort of like it's the same thing, it's like when you are faced with having to change or having to evolve, when humanity's forced to evolve, like, it's a problem, like, we fight it though, and people feel like they'd rather die, and it made me change my mind when I thought about that.
Oh,
Fuck that, I would
interesting.
have to I changed my mind, I was like, I would wanna survive because it might just be evolution, like, in order for humans to evolve, like, if it took that, then it would be
For
I'd but
survival, yeah.
yeah, for when I really thought about that, you know? 'Cause I do feel like sometimes I will answer questions with just like, "No, that's absolute" you know what I mean? If I'm not able to really be thoughtful about it. But the more I thought about that, the more I was like, "Yep, I changed my mind about that. I would totally do that to survive," because sometimes it takes you past your comfort zone, survival probably, and what it used to mean, but we have to keep redefining what it means to be human probably, and that happens that happens now too. Um, so yeah. I thought about that
That
the
is
other day.
that is an interesting pivot.
Mhm.
Yeah, Octavia Butler is a very real one. Like
Yeah.
I'm only halfway through it so far, but
Ooh, I'm
I
excited. I'm about to matter of
yeah,
fact, I'm about to look this up on the app now. The Libby app, guys, if y'all don't have this, you have to
yeah, get on
download it.
it.
The Libby app is your library, app. You guys can get on there. If you already have a library card, usually it's your library card number, like, for the username type thing, and then the last 4 numbers. I know that's how it is at ours. Is yours like that?
Yeah,
For the
the last 4
password?
digits are my PIN, yeah.
Or the pen or whatever, and you can any books that they have, you
Set
can
up an
put them on
account,
hold, set up an account, you guys, for
including
books.
audiobooks.
Yes, which, is my fave.
That's my
Mommy over
jam.
here. But yeah, I
And you can
definitely
get
need to.
comic books. You can get comic books through it.
See? Look at you. So it's
Yeah.
for the nerds out
Comic
there, you
books are
guys.
expensive.
You can borrow them hoes for free, man. So yeah, definitely, if you're not up on that, you guys definitely take advantage of your local libraries. Support your librarians, etc. But see, that's what I'm saying. Like that's what books can do though, you know? And I think that it's important for us not to stay so fixed sometimes and to stay fluid and open and not necessarily I'm not saying change. I think the idea of like asking somebody to change the core of who they are or how they perceive themselves. Boom, how they perceive themselves can be a challenge. And I think that exploring different narratives can help sort of reframe things and move things around, man. Like, see, I changed my mind, guys, and I'm still here. Everything's fine.
It's fine. Like,
Everything's
it's
good.
it's actually weirder if you don't change your mind about stuff. You're basically saying, "I'm never wrong." I'm wrong
Oh,
all the time. Like, it's amazing I get anything right ever. Like, and I do
man.
celebrate myself. That's why I'm always like, "Oh, look at me." Oh, I've been posting the Wordles.
Yeah,
Whenever I
guys.
do the Wordles, I feel real I still need to do I need to hurry up. Dang, it's almost midnight.
Look at you. We
I
gotta get
be
out of
mad
here.
when I miss them. I'll mess up my streak.
Oh no. Okay, yeah.
Oh,
Well,
no.
well, so then on that note, I mean, if I had to pick my favorite of the ones that we've done,
Yeah.
um, I think that dang, this is really hard. You know I hate picking favorites, but
There's no wrong answers.
I know. I
Even if you don't get I just picked mouse because I just felt like it. Nothing
Okay.
happens if you do
Well,
it
I'm
wrong.
gonna say Sherman Alexi's book.
Yeah, I was going.
That was a really good one because I just don't think that I've had a chance to explore a lot of narratives that were, surrounding like Native American people, and I'm interested. So
And
it
I
was
like
really
his
cool.
Instagram.
Yeah, his Instagram, you said?
Yeah. Sherman
Oh,
Alexi.
I haven't been on there. Remember, he might be a perv. I feel, I
He
feel
just
bad
seems like I
picking
read
it.
into it. He's just weird.
Listen,
Like,
I
it's
don't even wanna
not
speak on it, so I just wanna say if that hopefully
okay.
that's not I just wanna mention that, like, yeah, I mean, he might be sketchy,
Yeah.
but I really liked his book.
He's
I
good
was
at
gonna
writing.
say
These are well-written books, that's why they're afraid
they
of
were good,
them.
they
Like,
were good.
the whole point is, like, they make their and my whole thing is too, like, if you have a problem with any of these
Don't
items,
read.
like, the way you fight stuff isn't by shouting it down or, because this was another thing too that a lot of, because these are mostly conservative groups that are blocking these, but, like, another thing that, like, a lot of liberal groups do is, like, they'll keep people from speaking at universities or, like, block them or, like, keep them from uh like performing or something like that, but like you don't accomplish anything by stopping people from talking. Like let them talk themselves into the hole. Like let them talk. Like you fight ideas with better ideas, not by being like shut up, shut up. Like let people get their little stuff out and then just be like, okay, well,
W
refute them. Like you can't act like you're
Mhm.
scared of people talking. Like let them say whatever they got to say.
Well, because repressing that you see what happens when it's repressed because I feel like the reason why it seems like it's more racist now is because I think that people who have felt a certain way for so long feel like now they can finally say it. It's like, give these assholes a chance to say what they wanna say. I still don't give a fuck about none of it, but also you're
Mm-mm.
entitled to feel how you feel.
Right.
I mean, like, I mean
And you can always just been like, let them like just say something. We did that when we went up to my school and they were trying to make Egypt white. It's
Yeah,
like,
I was like, so I
I
thought,
wasn't like, boo, get off the stage. It's like,
yeah.
no, you just be like, I have some questions. Like, that's all
Mhm.
you have to really do a lot of times with faulty ideas. It's just be like, I have a couple questions.
Yeah, and there's
And
nothing wrong with that.
yeah, we don't have to meet everything with all this vitriol and like blocking. Yeah, it's like
I mean, it's
just
fun,
say what
I
you got to
guess.
say. I mean, I mean, it's not as
For some people, maybe. I mean, I don't
for
know.
me. It's way more fun debating people with bad ideas.
Ah! Sorry.
It's like you playing me. I'll say,
Ah!
wrap that shit up,
Wrap it
yo.
up, yo. Get the fuck outta here,
Playing
man. Oh
the
my god, sorry,
outro
guys.
music.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, no worries. But
But
yeah,
no, I
that's
agree.
it. That's all I have to say.
No, I didn't do that to you because of that.
That's
It did seem like that was really
it
great
did.
timing.
It
I
was.
was like, "I'm trying to get prepared. I'm trying to find it." Yeah,
Mm,
we should
uh,
just move on, I guess.
Yeah. Next
There's nothing to
segment.
rate.
Stranger than fiction.
I came across a story on USA Today, and it kind of goes with what we've been talking about as far as banned books and stuff. So basically, there's a teacher in Oklahoma who helped students get banned books or have access to them, and officials want her license revoked. And I just thought this seems really, really dumb. And it was titles like Mouse and Beloved, um, which were some of the books that they didn't want. So basically, they're calling for her license to be taken away. And let's see. And I think her name is Summer Bosmir, a former Norman High School teacher, resigned in opposition to a new state law that bans certain race and gender concepts from books. And she says she's covered all of her classroom bookshelves with messages that books the state doesn't want you to read, and put like QR codes for the library
There
so
you
that
go.
if they wanted to see them, they had access to them. And so shout out to her. You know what I mean? Like that's what's up. Because at the end of the day, I mean, like you say, I mean, these kids, if they really want these books, they can get them. So it's like, stop playing yourself, basically.
Yeah, what are we really trying to do here?
What is the objective? Now what? Like we
Yeah.
already, the way that we teach school now, I just feel like needs to be reimagined anyway. Because not only
Real hard.
the book that they point out, like even some of the stuff that's in my kids' books that they learn, I'm always like, I feel like they're
Actually,
giving a little creative license here. I wouldn't take this literal. Keep in mind that people writing these books, are coming from this point of view. So that's why they're writing it like this. We tend to make ourselves the heroes of our own story. So, we can't really say for sure that he died on the battlefield clutching his blah, blah, blah and it's like, do we really know that? We don't know, but
no.
it sounds good in a story, right?
Sure.
So anyway, yeah, that was our Stranger Than Fiction story, you guys. Read Bamboo.
That's great.
Okay, wow. But yeah, so anyway, guys, Patreon, be looking for it. It'll be, we'll launch it. You guys will see some more stuff. But hopefully you guys will want to support us for giving us all the free content we've made up until this point, and then for the opportunity to get more. Or maybe you just like the idea of supporting two cool, nice ladies who's doing stuff. I don't know. At least now anyway, any money that gets donated through Patreon is directly to elevate and upgrade the show and make it better. And I'm definitely excited to be able to do that because it just makes it a better overall product for you guys too. So thanks in advance for your support because we need it. How about that? All right. And this is, hey, technically you're supporting a Black business. We LLC this thing. We
There
have
you
a business
go.
bank account. We have
I actually want to
all of the
send
things.
out I'm not racist stickers to all of our listeners who just happen to be white.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so at a certain Patreon level, you get certified stickers. You're
And
not
that's your
racist.
job, Kat. Don't you look at me about none of that because I'm not
I'm
about to
not.
promise them that.
I'm
Okay.
not.
And
I'll
also, too, if I'm looking at a white person weird if they have a sticker that says I'm not racist.
I'm
I'm
into it.
immediately
I'd
suspicious.
have been like,
Immediately
"Hey,
suspicious.
I'm gonna have some questions," but then when they explain, it's like, "Oh yeah, I like give money to Black women directly."
Exactly.
And
Well,
then they
maybe
send
that's
me
what the
these,
sticker
and
should
they send
say.
me,
That's
and
what
they
it
send
should
me these,
say.
and they send me these stickers. and they can be like, "You can check them out. They'll verify me," and I'll be like, "Yep, they
It's
gave us
true. We'll
money.
put your name in the notes and everything
Yep,
so you can
he's
even
in they're
point
in a
to it.
database of people who gave us money, so they get these stickers."
That is true. So if you have, what is it called? It's like white guilt or something? Is that actually the term?
Yeah,
Like yeah, if you have that, then, maybe just give 'em money, we'll help you with that.
yeah. We'll completely absolve you of your
That's
white guilt.
fine.
It'll
Sure.
be like yeah, like, we can sprinkle, like, special water on the stickers,
Absolutely.
and they
We can say
have
some
powers,
words over
and
'em.
they powers will absolve you of all of your, racism. I'm just
At
taking
least
some
in
notes.
our eyes.
Nar and also,
Like, please go.
yeah,
That's
we
what he's
gotta
trying to
wrap
say to
this
us. You guys, let's wrap this shit up, yo. I guess we do have to spin the wheel though, huh, before we get the hell out
we
of here.
do.
Yay! You get to announce it. Oh,
All Boys Aren't Blue
yes.
by
Oh my
George
gosh.
M. Johnson. So we're gonna be taking one I'm just
Woo!
gonna take context clues from the title that this is gonna be about gender norms.
It definitely is, and, George M. Johnson is a New York Times bestselling author, and he's also, this year, I don't know if this is always, but he's the Banned Book Week honorary chair, this year too, which is pretty cool. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I know that they had, like, some virtual events and stuff like that, and I think that he was the one kinda, like, in the chats and stuff talking with people about his book. I've seen a lot of, like, I saw a lot of press about him this past week too, so I thought, "Oh, this is right on time." I've been wanting to read a book, specifically about the LGBTQ, experience, and him being, a guy, I think, that's an interesting perspective, and so I'm always willing to take in other people's narratives because why not? Let's see what he's got to say.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, it's just so irritating to me, like, when people, like I said, like, wanna bully or, like, disparage gay people.
Yeah.
Like, it's so like, once again, these are some of the most interesting people. Not that they're just so interesting, but to me, people who are openly gay tend to be some of the most honest people because I feel like there's a lot of closeted gay people that are, like, just so desperately trying to hold on to this idea of heteronormacy, and it allows you to be so dishonest in other parts of your life because you're constantly being so dishonest with yourself.
Mm.
Whereas if you're living honestly and just saying, "Hey, this is just how I am," like, you just tend to be a better person. I don't know any other way for it, like, any other way to say it. Like, you're just an it's not to say that gay people are just better, it's just people who are honest about themselves just tend to be better.
Right, and I think not, like, better in the sense of, like, you ain't shit if you're not coming out with it, but as far as just, like, your human experience is much better, like, you get to be yourself, like, I think that's always the best case scenario no matter what situation you're in. When you get to show up fully who you are, you're healthier, I would venture to say you're, happier, you are, more tuned into and willing to take part in things that you enjoy because you're like, "Hey, this is me. This is what I do." So I agree with you from that standpoint, if that's what you mean. So yeah, definitely. So I'm excited you guys to talk about this book. Hopefully, I mean, if you get a chance, you guys check it out, and then that way we can talk about it together.
It's up, yeah, but
That'd
leave
be
us some
fun.
reviews.
Definitely.
Um, Send us good vibes, we can feel them.
Mhm.
Comment in the
Do
things.
that. We talk.
Um, we do, and please remember your body belongs to you, and it's fine. You don't need any plastic surgery. You don't need, like I mean, unless you do, like, some people actually do, but, like, most people don't. Like, so you're probably just fine, and just embrace what your body can do for you and not how well you look in a porn.
Oh God, is that a?
I feel like that's what people are, like, going for this, like, perfect ideal or something. I don't know. It's just something I notice a lot, especially with, like, younger people, like, there's this idea, like, you're supposed to look perfect,
I would say drink
and
water.
Yeah, like, just worry about your health and what your body can do and not just about how, like, how much you can look like, I should probably
One
stop.
of those sex dolls.
Your
Yeah,
body
let's
belongs
just
to you.
yep,
Yeah, your
yep.
body belongs to you.
It definitely does, you guys, and
So love
definitely,
it.
definitely love it. It does a lot for you that you don't even think about. So
Does.
be kind, and then you guys definitely be involved with the things that you love to do. Be around the people you love, and be nice to yourself. Do that
Yeah.
because you deserve it. All right, so we're
And
gonna
come
stop
back next
rambling.
week.
Yeah, please, guys, come back next week, and thank you for your support. Before we go, we must give thanks to Urban Nerd for providing our music, and legal services were handled by Trezanae M. Atkins. If you like what you heard, please feel free to join us every Wednesday for another fake ass book club. Cheers.
Thank you guys for listening. You can check us out at thefabpodcast.com. Please subscribe, rate, and review our podcast wherever you're listening right now. We want to hear from you. Come put it in our life. Thanks again. And until next time, peace, love, and the Fake Ass Book Club. We out.